Okay, fantastic. So I'm hoping to end, exactly at the hour, just to respect everyone's time. I'll stop the recording there, but if there's like people who are really keen to keep on chatting afterwards, we can have an extended discussion immediately afterwards. Just stay on the Zoom call. Um, for now, this is just a one-off call, but maybe we can make it a weekly call if it's popular. And for now, it's this invite-only call, which we might make public at some point. So I guess most of you should be part of the Telegram group. There's also a spreadsheet if you haven't seen it. I've tried to consolidate a lot of the write-ups on relevant topics, base sequencing, base preconfirmations, shared sequencing, all of these things. And maybe one of the best ways to get added to the group is just to produce a write-up. I guess if someone's watching this and is not part of the group already. In terms of the focus of the call, I think the scope is Ethereum sequencing and Ethereum preconfirmations. So we have rollups that already consume Ethereum data availability. They already consume Ethereum settlement. And here, basically, the idea is that they also consume Ethereum sequencing. And when I talk about preconfirmations, I really mean like the best form of preconfirmations, which is preconfirmations on state, not just preconfirmation on transaction inclusion. I guess there's 4 types of attendees, and I do want to do a round of introduction. So we have MEV infrastructure people, we have Rollup builders, we have investors, and we have researchers. And the way that I think about it is that, sure, there's a lot of very interesting and nitty-gritty technical details that need to be solved, lots of heavy-duty engineering, but my intuition is that actually the most difficult part of Ethereum sequencing and preconfirmations is coordination. And this is partly like the reason why we're all here. This is a multi-party kind of dance that we all have to play, and I'm happy to kind of help kickstart some of the coordination infrastructure, including the spreadsheet, the Telegram, and these calls. And I think this call would be a success if we do just one thing, which is basically share amongst each other, what have we been doing with base rollups, how excited we are about base rollups and sequencing and preconfirmations. What is our level of conviction? How much work do we feel we still have to be done? Who have we been talking to? And also just having more common knowledge on how much progress has been done. Because when I did the spreadsheet and started consolidating write-ups, I was actually surprised myself at how much research has already been done from all sorts of people in the ecosystem. And I think the general public certainly doesn't realize it, and maybe a lot of you didn't realize that there's 20 to 30 teams that have already done some work on this. So if everyone's okay with that, just kind of focusing on the social layer for this very first call, and then the next call can be extremely technical. So I guess I'll start with the MEV infrastructure people. I want to ask you, out of 10, how excited are you about base sequencing and base preconfirmations? What have you done so far? What are your plans? Keep it relatively short. Give a bit of context on your own personal conviction, but also what your broader team is doing. And I guess to keep it really organized, I'll just go through the list on the spreadsheet from top to bottom. So we have Matt, who might not be able to make it. So if you're here, Matt, let us know. Otherwise, we'll move on to the next person. Yuri, do you want to tell us about your conviction?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Uri, CEO and co-founder of Bloxroute. Most of us know one another. I am extremely bullish on preconfirmation. Preconfirmation, as Justin said, could mean quite a lot of different things. Preconfirmation on state is the thing that I am extremely, like, I spent like a year brainstorming about how you can actually do it. My direction might be slightly different from others. So my direction is the thing that I'm very excited about is first come, first serve pre-confirmation, basically making DeFi look something like CeFi. That has strong opposition from the MEV auction side. So these aren't very compatible. And so I think it would pay more money if we did that way. So it would actually be more valuable to validators, blah, blah, blah. Don't want to get into that. But that's my personal angle. Did a lot of, not a lot of public writing, did a lot of like, okay, drafts around it, ran the numbers, how this would actually be. Validators will get a smaller slice of the pie, but the pie becomes much bigger because there's 10 times more volume. But that's first come, first serve pre-confirmation. I assume some people here would say, oh, I'm just like giving you something like intent or something like that. You'll get pre-confirmation on the state and you'll get like an RFQ or something like that. So personally, very, very excited. At Bloxroute, we're not actively working to promote this vision. It isn't one of our main goals. I am more than happy to have like, okay, we're working on this and like redirect towards it if it's something very practical that could be achieved. Stop it here.
Perfect. Thank you, Yuri. Next, we have Chainbound. So I guess either Jonas and Francesco can speak on behalf of Chainbound.
Yeah, I'll take it. Hello, everyone. So yeah, we're also very excited about pre-confirmations. And actually, Yuri, one of the first times that we really saw it was with your presentation about pre-cons a while ago. And yeah, mainly because, well, the obvious reasons like lower transaction confirmation latency, the applications for base rollups, the fact that base sequencing is like the most resilient type of sequencing in our opinion. So it's mainly that, and we've been working kind of, yeah, just seeing how it could be implemented specifically next to PBS, because yeah, there seem to be some incompatibilities there. We're also not actively working on like a pre-conf product or something, just doing some research and thinking about implementation. So that's basically it.
Perfect. Thank you, Jonas. Next, we have the Espresso team. So I guess Ben, Elio, Kartik, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, happy to. So, I mean, you all know Espresso as an implementation of shared sequencing, but once these proposals about base sequencing came out and people started talking about pre-confirmations, we realized that these ideas are actually quite close, and that with only small changes, we could actually turn Espresso into an implementation of base sequencing with some additional interesting properties. And so I won't take the time right now, but this is the sort of HackMD post that I dropped in the channel and is in the spreadsheet, sort of explaining how there are some downsides of vanilla base sequencing, that generally there's a trade-off between L1 composability and the strong finality that you get from centralized sequencers. But we were proposing a way of sort of integrating the core of Espresso, which is a BFT protocol that can be run among L1 proposers that are opting into the pre-confirmation layer to close the gap and try to eliminate this trade-off. So we think that this is a very good way to implement based sequencing and is perfectly complementary to the pre-confirmations that would be given by proposers, right? So if other people are working really hard on ways of give this sort of promises over intents, that's very complementary, and I think we can work together on that.
Amazing. Thank you, Ben. Next up, we have the Flashbot team. I guess either Dan or Quintus. Do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I'll take it. Hi, guys. Yeah, we're Flashbot's generally interested in sort of off-chain MEV supply chains and infrastructure and trying to make that sort of more secure, making sure that sort of the incentives don't lead to a negative dynamic. So we're here mostly to learn and understand how things could progress forward.
Perfect. Thank you, Quintus. Next up, we have the ultrasound team. Alex or Nicholas?
Yeah. Excitement wise, like I'd say a 9 when it comes to like the unlock for the user experience of like an Ethereum user, what we could achieve here, and how the chain as a whole could improve also relative to others. Maybe for me personally, more like 7 out of 10, just because I feel like I'm still learning and trying to figure out the pieces and see how all this complexity translates into, well, for example, a relay operator playing a small part of the in the bigger picture.
Right, that's fair. There's still a lot of exploring and education to do. Next up, we have L2Beat, Bartek.
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm not really sure if I should be in this column anyway, but having said that, we're very excited to see this development, and from our point of view, we're trying to make sure that we're like ahead of whatever the interesting angle is being discussed and implemented that will allow us to better have ourselves prepared. So I guess I'm kind of an outside observer in a way, but I'm very interested in progress, and also making sure that, you know, any team that actually does something interesting, even if it's on not on the mainnet yet, you know, like I would love that team to reach out to us so that, you know, we can be like prepared.
Makes sense. Nathan from Convexity.
Hey everyone, I'm Nathan. I'm a searcher and builder in the MEV space. So I'm really excited about this from an intellectual standpoint. I find it really interesting. From an economic standpoint, I'd say I'm both bullish and bearish at the same time. So I'm bullish about the possibilities that pre-confirmations unlock, for example, futures markets for block space, markets for risk, where we move risk away from protocols and into the hands of solvers who are appropriately paid and specialized. I'm a little bit bearish about some of the risks of adding complexity into the intent supply chain that doesn't currently exist, and what the implications of that are, and also what the potential barriers to entry could be here, and what the solver landscape looks like when you factor in returns to capital and specialization. So this is something I'd love to discuss. I think these are important questions to answer.
Right. I guess one of the mental models that I have is that you know, there's a lot of sub-problems within pre-confirmation specifically. There's also a lot of sub-problems within decentralized sequencing specifically, and there's also sub-problems within shared sequencing specifically. And in some sense, base sequencing and base pre-confirmations is like a tiny little change relative to like all these other problems. They don't introduce that many problems. And so what I'm hopeful will happen is that these sub-problems will be tackled individually, and we kind of get a lot of the R&D for free in terms of base sequencing. Okay, next up we have Sasha from Lido. I don't know if he made it. Oh yeah, I can see you. Hi, Sasha.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Checking. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, my motivation isn't primarily Lido driven here. It's just was in Costa Rica with Justin, and he pitched when he pitched the base rollup idea, perhaps for the first time, and fell in love with it. And for me, it was like clearly, you know, one thing I'd been struggling with the current rollup, the pre-based rollup scaling strategy, was this fact that it felt to me like we were losing what made Ethereum incredibly special compared to other, you know, other chains. And then that really has to do with this notion of credible neutrality and this notion of liveness under, you know, extreme scenarios. And for me, when Justin pitched the base rollup idea, it clicked that this was actually the way to scale while preserving what makes Ethereum most special. So I'm just here to listen and think through, you know, possible narratives and shelling points that can help drive this forward.
Perfect. Thank you, Sasha. Next up, we have Nevermind team with Connor or Swapnil.
Hey, so yeah, for people who are just joining the group, I guess I'm sort of the person who was going down like a bit of pedantic rabbit hole about defining what a base pre-confirmation was, or like what a pre-proposal confirmation should be. So yeah, like definitely there was a period of time there where I was really trying to define like the difference between a base pre-confirmation and a BFT pre-confirmation. I think that's important, especially for people who don't really understand. There's like differences there from a technicality and an economics perspective. So important that we flesh that out. From a Nethermind perspective, I guess we're also we're planning to implement pre-confirmations very soon. We're talking with Taiko and hoping that we can actually maybe put something out there in terms of a POC or an MVP to actually get pre-confirmations going. Base pre-confirmations.
Oh wow, I didn't know about that. Very exciting. And then next we have the Ephema team with Chris and Pascal.
Yes, so we're a pretty new research group with a background in interoperability space, but also in operations research and economic stuff. So pretty bullish. I think open questions I see is like in protocol versus out of protocol with seeing teams like Espresso and Astria and like how to solve these conceptual problems in the best way. From our perspective, what we're working on currently is we have quite a focus on execution tickets, working there on the design space for pricing with Barnaby. So also quite interested in like the interoperability there with execution block space. How can that work for pre-confirmations? So focus on that there. Then in terms of bringing people together, we're also organizing a Suzalu style thing in Berlin, where we like to bring a good amount of researchers in person together. So if anybody here is interested to join that end of May after East Berlin and Berlin Blockchain Week, feel free to ping us like here on Telegram.
Yeah, Chris, thank you so much for organizing this. I'll probably try and join and give a talk, and if that could be a selling point for base sequencing and pre-confirmations, then that would be a fantastic outcome. I skipped George. Sorry about that. George, you want to go ahead? George from
yeah, no worries. Hey guys, yeah, I'm George. I'm co-founder of LimeChain, who's despite your intuition is not a chain. We are a consultancy trying to help rollups, and I'm heading the R&D division, where we have our theory that rollups are the next best thing that's going to happen, especially the based rollups. So for the last, I guess, 2 months, we have been focusing mainly on based rollups, on the various write-ups around pre-confirmations. We tried some ideations on how the different things can work out in order for a rollup to be able to realize base rollups. We are trying to help various rollups with the implementations or the ideations around integrating based or even boosted rollups in their system.
Amazing. That's great to hear that you're pushing the frontier forward on that. Next up, we have Murat from Prime EV.
Prime, thanks, Justin. Hey, everyone. As many of you know, I was part of the MevBoost stewards group at DevCon Bogota, where I was frustrated with all of the searcher requests coming to our builder at the time at Block Native, and had this insight that I can't solve these as a centralized block builder, and we need some sort of kind of shared system, P2P network of some sort, where these guarantees can be given. And this led to the founding of Prime, and we've been looking at pre-confirmations quite deeply and how we can have an out-of-protocol approach that is compatible with PBS today. We have a proof of concept running on Holsky, but we really see this as an environment where us and perhaps folks on this call can experiment with the various types of pre-confirmations. Right now, we're focused on transaction pre-confirmations, but state is obviously one thing everyone's talking about here. One thing I'd like to bring the group's attention to is these block pre-confirmations that builders have asked us for. So what if a proposer can kind of get a 3 times higher bid, like halfway into the slot, and say, hey, look, I'll just kind of commit to this bid, and then you can deliver the payload at the end of the slot kind of pre-confirmation, which I believe is a very interesting approach, but one we have to very carefully think about because it can have many implications on security in the auction. So yeah, we're doing a lot in this space, but there's a myriad of open problems. One thing I'd like to also point out is that there's a big kind of design space that can be unlocked by some minimum enshrinement of some problems regarding this, particularly around builder identity, some other aspects of attribution of who did what, so that you can design games around pre-confirmations. So yeah, that's a big preamble from me, but please reach out to us if you want to experiment with us on Holski. We're working with builders and validators on there to coordinate them over this P2P network and make these come true. And we're very excited to work with folks on this call. We think there's going to be many types of pre-confirmations, and they can settle in different ways for different blocks through different technical systems. So yeah, very excited to be here.
Wow, I didn't realize you guys are already on testnet. Super exciting. Next up, we have Aztec with Cooper and Lisa.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm on the Aztec team. We're a privacy-first layer 2 for Ethereum. We plan on launching with a fully decentralized sequencing and proving network. Should have a testnet in the next couple of months, hopefully. We're super interested in L1 pre-confirmations from the perspective of landing our blocks on chain and our blobs on chain on a regular cadence and some predictable cost model, ideally. But yeah, happy to be here and excited to talk about this and work from it from the perspective of a fully decentralized layer 2.
Perfect. So that was the first project, I guess, in the Rollup category. Next in the Rollup category, we have David from Fuel.
Hey guys, I'm David from Fuel, and yeah, we're I say this call is good timing. We're actually on our sequencer offsite. I guess for anyone not familiar with Fuel, we're building kind of a new stack for rollups, and hopefully planning to launch our first rollup. We'll be announcing dates pretty soon, hopefully. But yeah, I've spent a good amount of our day kind of starting our discussion around pre-confirmation. So it's good timing. Excited to learn a bit more.
Oh wow, an offsite on sequencing and pre-confirmation sounds great. Next up, we have a scroll with Sam and Mo.
Hi, this is Sam Jernigan from Scroll. I would say in terms of for L1 sequencing or based rollup design, I'm probably a 9 or a 10 personally in terms of excitement. Pre-confirmations, which I think is a little bit newer, complex. I don't admit to having a full technical understanding of all the details, but I think it's obviously super cool, very exciting if we can pull it off. So maybe I guess I'd say I'm a 7 or 8, simply from a lack of maybe full understanding there. I think the team more broadly is still in a research phase, but very interested. And so there's I don't think that there's a consensus or there's a firm direction, but the team is engaged on the research side, and Mo and I in particular have been looking at this issue for a while. And I think, just to Justin's credit, I think I always just assumed L1 sequencing was the end state. I think Justin laid out for me years ago, this kind of broad design. So it's always been the default in my mind, personally.
Thank you, Sam. Next up, we have Brecht from Taiko.
Yep. Hey. So yeah, strong believer in based rollups from the start, and hopefully in the next couple of months we'll actually launch our rollup as a based rollup. So hopefully that goes okay, because yeah, most of the things that we did on our side is mostly theoretical. So it will be great to also see it working in practice, and obviously afterwards, pre-confirmations for user experience will be super important. So yeah, very excited about that it is possible, and it seems even possible in practice now with all the research that you guys also did. And yeah, I guess in practice also, yeah, we had a grant open to help make this stuff. And so been working with the Nethermind people and the LimeChain people on trying to get this done. Yeah.
Yeah, this stuff is possible today, even without a hard fork. And great to hear that you have this grant infrastructure. And maybe this is something that we can talk about after the intros, what kind of infrastructure is there to try and push this forward in terms of coordination and funding. Next up, we have Brendan from Polygon.
Hey everyone, I'm Brendan. Work at Polygon. I would say that I'm very excited about sort of defragmenting Ethereum and unifying state liquidity. The angle that we're sort of looking at this from is from the perspective of aggregation, specifically proof aggregation, which basically provides, we think, like a safety mechanism for asynchronous and synchronous composability. And we think that this is really complementary to shared sequencing and base sequencing and pre-confirmations. So yeah, nice to meet everyone.
Yeah, Brandon and I had a call just before this call. And basically my previous thesis was that, we need shared sequencing and we need real-time settlement in order to unlock universal synchronous composability. And I think that's technically true. But like the work that Polygon is doing with the aggregation, which is basically saying, as a sequencer of one chain, my block is only valid conditional on the state of some other rollup also being valid. That actually helps with safety. I agree with Brandon, it's like totally complementary, and it's great to hear that we have this kind of unexpected new piece of safety coming out of the woodworks. Next up, we have the Sorella team, not technically a rollup, but maybe some sort of like application-specific sequencing. Ludwig, Philip, or Kartik.
Hey guys, here at Sorella, we're really excited for base sequencing. We're really thinking about the future that it implies with universal synchronous composability. A bit of context on what we're doing right now. We're building a MEV resistant AMM on Ethereum, and we're doing this via batch auctions. So we're specifically interested in the last log problem that kind of arises out of pre-confirmations and how to quantify and minimize the extractable value on the part of the pre-confirmers in this paradigm. We also share the vision that this base pre-confirmation future will lead to a design space where now the thing to be optimized is application-specific virtual machines. So in that line of thought, we're doing a lot of internal work with regards to designing a virtual machine optimized for batch auctions.
Right, amazing. Yeah, as soon as we have this universal synchronous composability, then the long tail of VMs suddenly opens up and they can tap into all the liquidity and network effects while still being hyper specialized, which is super exciting. Okay, so now we're moving on to the third type of people on this call, which are investors. And first up, we have Jonah from Blockchain Capital.
Hey, nice to meet everybody. I think my excitement level on this one is like a 9 out of 10. I think it allows Ethereum to ensure block space is provided to those who want it most. I'm currently working on a paper for valuing execution tickets and mapping out all the second order effects. The context on execution tickets is that it's an orthogonal approach to MEV burn that will allow Ethereum to internalize more MEV. And the key insight here is that capturing MEV is a pure function of an execution payload monopoly. And what the execution ticket protocol does is separate out the proposer who actually has the right to propose the execution payload and has them actually bid for it. But the downstream effects is that a new entity will now be controlling the execution payload, which will affect how pre-comps are designed and how shared sequencers are designed. What I like about it is that by actually having people pay for this monopoly, the Ethereum protocol be able to capture all the value associated with giving out pre-comps and shared sequencing and all of that. So it seems to me like a more clean abstraction that will allow Ethereum to internalize all this new value. So I'm currently working to understand how to value these tickets. And then the second question will be how to price them to actually capture said value.
Thank you, Jonah. Yeah, I'm extremely excited about execution tickets, which is a potential upgrade to the L1, a hard fork. And what it does is that it decouples the execution proposers from the role of a validator. So now validators are no longer sequencing transactions. That's a more specialized role. And not only do we get a very nice segregation of roles, very similar to PBS, but we also get this burn aspect. And not only are we burning MEV, but we're also burning pre-confirmation. So it's kind of a very interesting upgrade. Next up, we have Drew from Brevin Howard.
Awesome. Great to meet everyone. Here in a personal capacity, but very excited about any new ways we can use Ethereum that we hadn't previously thought about. So Preconfirms are up that alley and what it implies for based rollups and sequencing. Over the last year, have written on builders using preconfirms, block-based futures, which are a form of preconfirms, and then most recently, the Relay offering a service to both validators and builders for preconfirms. So needless to say, quite excited about all this and happy to hear and collaborate with everyone here.
Amazing. Third investor in the chat, we have Cyberfund with Artem and Walt.
Hi, everyone. Nice meeting everyone. Yeah, I'm a researcher at Cyber, and we're at Cyber are very thesis driven. You know, we think Ethereum will be the substrate kind of digital economy in the future. So we're super excited about kind of all the improvements on the scalability, defragmentation side, and in particular pre-confirmation. So you know, maybe from two angles mainly. One is obviously investor angle, you know, would like to support the ecosystem and the projects, and the other angle is actually maybe from the intellectual angle as well. So I'm diving into the great write-ups that you all written. Those are very interesting. Yeah, and yeah, about the kind of excited to dive into the details of the design and discuss how we can improve it.
Perfect, thank you, Artem. Next we have David from Rockaway X. David.
He had to drop off, I think.
Yeah, he had to drop out halfway through. Yeah, he did give me a heads up. Okay, so the next category of people are the researchers. I don't think Barnabe could make it, so I'm not sure Alex could make it. Gosh, the researchers are very busy. Oh, hey,
Yeah.
Alex.
Hey.
Go ahead.
Hey, I can give a quick little intro. Hey, everyone. Yeah, I mean, very excited about both base rollups and, you know, if that sort of unlocks L1 preconfirmations. I think preconfirmations, like everyone else is saying, you know, could be like the super great UX improvement. And yeah, I think I'm a little more skeptical on some of the details of base rollups, but yeah, looking forward to keep track of things, how things evolve, all the great work that everyone else is doing, and see where this goes.
Perfect. We also have Julian as a researcher.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, I'm very excited to hear more about the base preconfirmations. I worked a bit on block space features with base fee as underlying some time ago. So interested in how studies from these two things can align.
Okay, perfect. And we have Facundo, an independent researcher.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, like I'm pleasure to be here. Thanks for including me, Justin. I'm not sure that I have to be in this call. I'm feeling kind of flattered to here, to be honest. But well, my name is Facundo. I'm from Argentina. I'm just an enthusiastic trying to understand preconfirmations and like base sequencing as a whole. I used to work at MakerDAO, the growth core unit, as an analyst, but I left like some months ago. But yeah, I'm mostly interested in this new MEV landscape that preconfirmations introduce, because like, correct me if I'm wrong, but the layer 1 proposal will have the chance to include several layer 2 blocks into a single layer 1 block, as far as I understand. So users don't have this MEV protection from private mempools from centralized sequencers like Optimus or Arbitrum. And although I know there are several bunch of mechanisms to address this, like execution tickets or I don't know, like threshold encryption, this is what catch my attention the most.
Okay, understood. Thank you, Facundo. And by the way, you wrote a great explainer on base rollup, so that alone warrants you being on this call. Thank you for the write-up. Next up, we have Matthew, who's also an independent researcher.
Hey, thanks, Justin.
I'm Matthew Edelin. My screen name is mteam88. I'm an MEV searcher and independent researcher. I'm focusing on the transaction submission phase of base sequencing, which is how users will get their transactions through preconfers and shared sequencers and the wallets involved there. In the Telegram group, I posted a draft for a brief article on that and some of the concerns I have about existing designs. And then one more thing, a lot of people here have said that they're still trying to understand everything surrounding base sequencing and preconfirmations. And if the people in this call are still learning, then I think we need more resources to explain the benefits of base sequencing to the average Ethereum user. So Justin's Bankless episode was a great start, and I plan to build on top of that with a few articles.
Amazing. That's great to hear. So we've covered the whole spreadsheet in 40 minutes, quite a feat. I guess, today I want to really focus on the social layer, the coordination layer. And I guess I want to open it up to the audience in terms of what kind of infrastructure have you been working on to help this coordination? I want to highlight a few that we already mentioned. So one is Zoo Berlin, where we could have some sort of conference dedicated to base preconfirmations and sequencing. Another one is Taiko giving out a grant. I don't know if you're giving out more grants, but that'd be great to hear. And again, I guess the third one is the Ethereum Foundation, right? Is a prolific grant giving organization, and I believe we've already received at least one grant application on this exact topic. So if anyone here wants to, I guess, talk about any ideas that they have or plans that they have to help with coordination, please go ahead.
We would love to. This is quite, aligned with our mission and kind of getting this coordination going for PBS. And we have some primitives that could help in the chasing of these goals. Particularly, they can help in some other adjacent research areas too. We have cryptographic primitives and a P2P network that can really be focused around these and commitments. Like we think we have some interesting use cases of this around pre-confirmations, but we think folks on this call and others can really come up with really interesting stuff using these primitives. So to that extent, if there's a grant pathway that would allow us to coordinate better and formalize this, we'd be happy to pursue that and open it up to the folks on this call and beyond to run this social coordination beyond this call.
Just to make sure I understand, are you offering to give away grants, or you were considering applying for a grant?
Considering applying for one, not necessarily for the funds. We can, redirect the funds to something else, but to get something formal going and perhaps to invite others who might want to work on this in a kind of EF compatible way.
Right, I see. So the Ethereum Foundation does have a website where you can submit grants. There's two types of grants. There's the small grants and that are $30,000 or less, and the bigger grants. The small grants have just less bureaucracy and due diligence associated. So that's usually easier to get through as a first step. But yeah, we give grants of all size, sometimes including multi-million-dollar grants. Happy to chat about the grant applications for sure.
Sounds good.
Yeah, and Taiko also has grants open for, well, I guess we have one specifically for pre-confirmations, but yeah, if it's something related to base rollups, then yeah, we can talk. And yeah, I'll also link it in the Telegram group. I guess it makes sense.
I don't have I don't have anything that I can offer from the top of my head, but from my perspective, what would be beneficial for me, and I think a lot of the people are kind of, each is doing their own thing and they're a small pond and there are a lot of moving parts. Maybe doing something like 20 minutes presentation, like somebody who's really, here's the latest on base rollups, because I haven't looked at it for like 6 months. And then, here's the latest on the sequencing or pre-conf on base. Like if we could do, not an hour-long conversation, but something short and to the point from somebody who knows exactly what he's talking there, I would find it helpful. I don't know if others feel the same.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you want to lead that, then that sounds great. In the chat,
willing to do that. I can do. So like willing to take point on this.
Nice. Dan in the chat says Flashbots is also willing to give grants. So we have 3 grant giving organizations already, which is fantastic to hear. Nice. And I guess one question I have is anyone hiring here? Is anyone hiring engineers for sequencing, pre-confirmations? I guess if we make this call public and people are listening, who should they contact if they're interested in this topic?
In Espresso,
we're hiring
engineers. Yeah.
We are
So,
hiring protocol engineers and protocol researchers as well. Yeah, anybody Rust-based engineers, we're absolutely hiring.
Okay, nice.
I would say Aztec is hiring on the engineers and also the R&D front, and also probably cryptographers. We're always hiring cryptographers.
Stuff.
Netherman's also for the lookout for engineers and protocol researchers.
Okay, nice. So we have Espresso, Scroll, Sorella, Aztec, and Nevermind hiring for these kind of roles.
Fuel as well.
And Fuel as well. Perfect.
You can throw Flashbots in there as well. I think pretty much everyone is looking for good engineers. Really.
Okay, everyone is hiring. There's so many opportunities here for base pre-confirmations and sequencing. That's great to hear.
If anyone wants to start a new company too, we'll look at funding it also. So it's another way to hire people in.
Right.
Is anybody looking for a job? That's the tough one.
I guess another topic would be, okay, this is a multi-party kind of coordination game. Like, what kind of partners are you missing? For example, in order to get base sequencing or base pre-confirmation bootstrapped, there needs to be like a critical mass of the validators that opt in, something like 15 to 20%. Is that a pain point to try and get the validators on board? What about the builders? Do you have existing connections to the builders? As a relay operator, and there's the ultrasound team here as well. Like, we're really well connected to the builders. Do you need intros there? What about the searchers in order to do pricing of the tips? I guess I'd be curious to hear who you're looking to do partnerships with, and who you're hoping to talk to.
I don't know if this is the same for pre-confirmations, but at least for base fee derivatives, we see that there are lots of companies building these things, but then there are no market makers actually trading them. And every time like these companies say that there will be some speculators, but we don't see any speculators. So maybe like degens or market making funds would be useful.
Yeah, I think the problem here, I've spoken to a couple of these folks, is that this is all very academic-y. I don't think there's been any material that has translated like all the findings to the key stakeholders. So there should be something that explains why it's interesting to have a block-based future to a speculator. There should be something that explains why it's good for an Ethereum user to have a block-based future. There needs to be material that takes this like 301 level research and gives it in a 201 manner to like the proper people. So I think from the coordination side, it requires, I guess, articles that dumb it down, I guess, so to speak. I think the Justin podcast was a fantastic start.
Yeah, I also agree on the coordination side. I think we can. There's an opportunity also to speak with applications, a new application coming out, like Sorella and other applications have off-chain components. I think can benefit a lot from pre-confirmations. So yeah, talking with validators, with more validators would help, but also talking with new applications that are coming out, with new dynamics of how they work, and see how that would fit in, how pre-confirmation will fit in inside of their implementation design, because we could see a world where again application would benefit a lot from this. At least from our research, we've been seeing them as potential users of this technology on top of layer 2s.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, talking about users, like having a proof of concept application that has this real-time amazing user experience would be a great demo. And also eventually it would be good to get the big wallets involved, like MetaMask and whatnot. And that's part of the coordination game as well. George, you have your hand up.
One more thing that's around the coordination game is what I've been noticing when we've been speaking with various teams that are looking into based rollups or are based rollups themselves. I think everyone in this call and everyone that's ever talked about based rollups and based pre-confirmation more have very kind of different idea what these are. So we are kind of missing an alignment of what actually these are, like what is important. Like one of the teams think that inclusions are important, other teams think that committing to post state is important. And yeah, there is like a massive need for us to start syncing up or converging around some requirement set. And I wanted to say great job to the folks at Chainbound. I noticed their link around pre-confirmation implementation tools that they have done a great job around at least starting some requirements list. I did something similar myself too, but I think if this group can start with one thing eventually is to actually figure out what we want for pre-confirmations to be, what's the end game of pre-confirmations.
Yeah, absolutely. Having some sort of standards, maybe an ERC, the equivalent of ERC20, but for pre-confirmation, so that everyone can have a shared, understanding of expectations and properties that, especially the wallets that are going to be consuming these pre-confirmations. We have Matthew, who left a message in the chat saying, "I need a job," and he also has his hand up. So the floor is yours, Matthew.
Well, other than being interested in maybe getting hired somewhere, I'm also wanting to think about coordinating some effort to explain base sequencing to, like I said, the average Ethereum user, and how we can make it clear what the benefits are, and also what are the changes going to have to be to wallets, and just that more user-facing part. Like, what is the wallet experience going to look like for users? I think we already know it's going to look a lot more like Ethereum did, with only one abstract chain that people are interacting with. But is it going to require configuration from the user? How are wallets going to send users transactions to pre-confers? That's just the kind of thing I'm thinking about. So if anyone else is interested in that, please reach out to me on Telegram.
Okay, thank you, Matthew, for the initiative. Ludwig, you also have your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo Francesco's point about speaking with application designers. From our perspective, at least, there's some doubt on just thinking and having a practical mental model of how this is technically implemented. And we're super keen on exploring various ways that we can benefit from pre-comps, but it helped a lot to understand how it actually lays out in practice. And I think a great way that we could personally work on that is outlining a case study, for example, of how we could use it and explain in technical detail how we kind of get to the point where we can benefit from them. So it's really, for us, at least as application devs, being able to understand how and what the technical requirements are, so we can think about various ways we can use.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, having some sort of end-to-end demonstration, proof of concept will really help flesh out all the details. I feel like I have a reasonably good understanding, or at least I feel like I have a good understanding at the specs, and then usually, at the research level, but usually the pipeline is research, specs, and then proof of concept, and then mainnet. And so yeah, I think having this accelerationist approach with a proof of concept that kind of pulls forward the spec and helps iterate very fast would be really cool. Any Anyone else? We have 5 minutes left, and so we can dedicate a few more minutes to coordination, and then the next call hopefully will be focused on nitty-gritty technical details. Sam.
Yeah, so I think that just raising the awareness and getting the conversation going on this is very important. So I think this is a great part of that process. Something I had raised internally, but I haven't followed up on yet. But I think maybe somebody mentioned earlier maybe having a small conference focused on this. We could also just do a side event, whether it's at DevCon or it seems it's probably too early, too soon to do Denver, but having a day or two before or after one of the regular, largely attended conferences would be a really great way for both people that aren't yet part of the movement, let's say, to join and collaborate, but also where we could have some of these proof of concepts, et cetera, kind of target to come and present. Yeah, getting the conversation going like this and then wrapping it in, bringing in on the pre-confirmation side, bringing in Sriram or somebody from the EigenLayer side, folks working from that angle, I think would be helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of teams that are missing from this call. I realize we're missing wallets, we're missing restakers, we're missing the hardware accelerators for the snark proving. There's a lot of different teams. It's extremely multidisciplinary and exciting. On the topic of conferences, I'm going to be at ETH London. I guess it makes sense for me to talk about this. So if you want to meet up in person, I'll be at ETH London and just the whole week around it, and more than happy to chat in person there. Anyone else have any closing thoughts on coordination?
Yeah, I think another group that could be interested in this are centralized exchanges, because they could benefit from improving the UX experience for their users in terms of potentially providing services of instant confirmation of a withdrawal or something like that. Again, theoretically, but I think it could be interesting to discuss with them.
Yep, for sure. I mean, what I'm hoping to do is grow the Telegram group at a reasonable pace, so that we don't get too overwhelmed, and maybe at some point we become so big that we have to branch out in more specialized Telegram groups or calls or whatever it is. Anyone else? George?
Is the idea for this group to kind of branch out on various work groups on the various aspects of the pre-confirmations and collaborate and work on this, or what is the general next steps for this group in general, for this collective?
Right, great question. So I think one of the next steps is to really sync up on the technical details and maybe understand what are the open problems that still need to be tackled. And then once we have a clear understanding of the open problems, we can start assigning people to solve these problems, and then here it makes sense to branch out. On that note, I'm pretty pleased with how this first call went. Is anyone here not happy with making this call public? Basically making the recording public. If you're not happy with it, you can tell me privately with a DM, and I'll take that into consideration. Otherwise, it would be great, I think, to make all of this information that was shared today public. In terms of a potential next call, I was very surprised that the percentage of people who could make it. I just suggested this time slot kind of at random, and 90% of people could make it. So I'm thinking of keeping this time slot Friday at 2 p.m. UTC, if that all works for everyone. And maybe having a call next week. I think that's a good cadence at the very beginning, once per week while we're still learning at such a fast pace. And then maybe later on we can slow down, maybe once every 2 weeks or once a month, or we can specialize in terms of different calls. With all that said, We've reached the end of the hour, so as promised, I want to try and end on time. Thank you so much, everyone who came, and I guess I'll see a lot of you on Telegram and next week. And if you're really keen and you want to stay on for kind of an informal after discussion, I'll be staying on, but no need to stay on. Thanks, everyone. Bye.